don't have any presentation. It's more the experience which I will talk about today. I would restrict myself to succession planning. And the first thing I'd like to say is that succession planning, when we talk about family business, should be kept away from the business, and the family should be kept separate, because succession planning for our business is very, very different from succession planning for a family. So it's important that we keep them apart and plan each separately. We started here as a small firm 24 years ago, and our business is a little different from most businesses. We are a professional firm, so the rules and what apply to succession planning for us may be a little different from regular enterprises. We have already discussed, and more distinguished speakers before me have spoken about the SME sector in the UAE, the pitfalls of the first, second, and third generation. So I actually will not revisit that. But I have one question. When is the right time to plan your succession? Because succession planning cannot be forced upon an owner. And I think the best time to plan your succession is when your business is doing well and you're not in a hurry to find a successor. Because that is the only way I can plan my succession without external pressures. We started that journey in our own business about 4 or 5 years back. And for various reasons, we each planned for succession, not for the same reason. While planning my own succession, I've done succession planning for a number of businesses over the last 20 years. And the reasons for looking for a successor are very different. Some people feel that they've worked enough and there's more to life than running a business. That feeling could come to you when you're 45, 65, 75, whenever. And over the last 20 years, we've seen that the feeling comes a little earlier than later in most people's lives. So we'll end up running a business because we don't have a successor. So we are forced to run a business for which we have no passion or which we have no interest. So it's very important for us to actually look for our successor prior to reaching such a position, because the entire way we view our succession plan is very different when succession is forced upon us. Change is inevitable, and succession planning is all about managing change. Why do we plan a succession? I want to go ahead in life. I want to do things which I never had time to do. I'm a first-generation entrepreneur, never got a chance to play the keyboards. So that may be my reason for looking for a successor. As far as, the first instinct we have when we look at successors is to look within our own family. But more so today than ever before, we find that our children may be disinclined to join our businesses. And I'm talking about across the board. I'm not talking about any particular community, nationality, or anything. But our children may have had an education in something else. They want to live in a different part of the world. Or they're educationally unsuitable for the business which we are running. So a succession plan, you have to have first the ability to look within your family or outside your family. And why? A fundamental reason for me to look for a successor is a trade-off between the pride of owning my business and the pride to see my business flourish after my working life. So, ownership gives us great comfort, but are we going to see our business run well beyond our working life? That is a trade-off which we have to consider today. The sooner we do, the better placed we are. So let's start thinking much before we start looking for a successor. Let's start thinking about what is our succession plan? What is the parameters within which I will work? The first thing I've got to decide is, can my business be run? And I'm talking mainly first or probably second generation entrepreneurs. that can my business be run by another person? I mean, is it a business which is so associated with me that it will die a natural death? Or can it be run by somebody whom I can groom to run it? Each one of us brings a certain ethic and culture into our business. And we have to decide, do we want this ethic or culture to continue? And if we do so, then we have to look for a successor who imbibes the same values for our business. Because business today is not all about making money. Business today goes beyond making money. And in a country where there are a large number of expatriates, where people spend most of their living day in office rather than at their home, your business has a cultural value to your employees. So when we come to that, it's very important that whoever succeeds either has the freedom to change the culture and ethic of the company or imbibes that same value. Even within the family, choosing a successor from within the family could also be a task because the options available to us may not have the same characteristics. So whether you're choosing a successor from outside or from within, the parameters remain the same, the evaluation remains the same. Onboarding a successor is a pretty complicated task because I believe that you should onboard your successor at the first opportunity you have to give him adequate time to learn about the organization, learn about the business, learn about the different facets which he'll have to look after. And as said just a short while ago, if you're looking for a successor, you have to give him this authority at the first available opportunity. You cannot tell him that only after I succeed will I give you authority. Delegation of financial authority, in my opinion, is the first stage of a succession plan because nobody is interested in managing your business if you can't manage your money. And that is the time when you take a clear distinction between your business and your family. Your family wealth remains completely separate from your business wealth. And that distinction has to remain amongst us, especially for people heading SME businesses, because we've always considered our business money our personal money. So that distinction has never come. But when the time comes to find a successor, we've got to make that distinction in our lives. Our successor has to be hungry for success because most of us first and second generation entrepreneurs have been known to look for that success. We've been very hungry. Mr. Hira was speaking before me. I'm sure they put in a lot of long hours in their business. And we find that a lot of times the people whom we think will succeed, us in our business, may not have that same hunger. So the trade-off is that are you allowing your business to stagnate or you look for a person who's hungry, who wants to do something more than what you have done. And succession is never an easy task. You know, we spend a lot of time looking for successors, looking for the right management team, and some of them don't work out. And then we get disheartened, and we try and take a step back from our succession plan. I think that is the biggest challenge you will face. The first successor you find may not be the ultimate successor. And losing him early is better, and going back to your drawing board and looking for the next best person is more important. But we cannot say that one failure would deter us. And coming back to the lady who said that she was given 10,000 pounds by her father to invest in a business, I think the best experience she had was losing that money. Because it's only your failures which can teach you. Your successes teach you very little. Your successes just give you an ego. It's your failures which teach you about business. So go ahead, ask your dad for another 10,000 pounds. My successor may not want to run my business the way I ran it. He may have different ideas. So the ability to give him the chance to innovate, to change, to diversify, that's very important. I must have that confidence in him to give him that freedom to do things which I did not do myself. Because as a first-generation entrepreneur, I may be more cautious, I may be more risk-averse. My successor may want to take a lot more risk, so I have to bring in that amount of governance, fiscal discipline into my organization to allow him to take that risk. And finally, I'm trying to keep this as short as possible, but we talk about succession. What are we willing to give up to find a successor? And what most people look for, and I think it's very important, the best way is to give him a golden handcuff right at the beginning. Tie him down and make it difficult for him to want to leave. Your successor is probably in many ways similar to what you were when you were starting off in life. He's hungry, he wishes to go forward, and therefore the best way to keep him that way is to give him a road to ownership of your company. Now, this is the most difficult part in a succession plan because most of us are very averse to giving any stake in our businesses to someone outside the family. And if we have chosen the path that our successor may come from within or outside the family, then we have to be able to take the decision of giving a stake to someone outside our area of comfort. Because why would anyone want to stay with you for the long term? And you cannot have a succession plan for 3 years or 5 years and then look for the next successor. Sorry? So finding the successor, giving him the right platform to run your business, giving him the incentive to stay with you is a very important part of a succession plan. Why did I look for a successor? I had 2 reasons. One is I'd worked enough. I wanted to spend more time playing golf or learning to play golf or do something else, maybe go back to that piano which I missed out in my childhood. The second thing is I want to see my business continue after my lifetime. I don't feel like working 16 hours a day or 14 hours a day, what is required to run my enterprise. But I would yet like to see it run bigger and better than what I created. And that could be as simple a reason to find a successor. So while there's no shortcut to it, I think when we're talking about business succession, this is a fait accompli for most of us. But just on a small footnote, we all talk about succession planning and everything, but most of our businesses in the SME sector have very little corporate governance. So prior to even looking for a successor, look at your governance plan. And let's not make it very complex. Governance is fairly simple. Most family businesses have it, but it's the unwritten rule. However, if you are looking for a professional succession plan, then this governance should be seen by everybody working for you. The regulatory environment in which we work in is changing. Many years back in this country, I could go to a bank and withdraw cash and nobody would ask me a question. But today we have anti-money laundering regulations, anti-corruption regimes. There are a lot of, and this regulatory environment is going to get stricter as we go on. It's a welcome change, it's a breath of fresh air to have this regulatory environment. But we need to put our rules in place so that our successor works within some parameters and is not allowed to run riot. And that's the need I feel that governance is the first step for your succession planning. Thank you.